The finances
means that
have
you
to be
keep abreast of the
there
market.
has to be the purpose
I think what it really means is
if you are completely
it
confident in
means
your
that you
product or
keep
service.
Welcome to another episode of the All Good Things with BBB podcast that is produced by Stephanie Blue, and I'll be your host, Jessica Tharp. I'm the president and CEO of the Better Business Bureau, and today's topic is about cybersecurity and all of the questions that you as a business owner might have about, do I need it? What does it mean exactly? So we're starting to bring in some experts on this subject. We have Anthony Meany of Pearl Technology right here in Central Illinois. He is the president and CEO over there, and we're going to ask him about all the things that you need to know. So Anthony, how long have you been with Pearl now?
All right, I've been with Pearl for 4 years, and president and CISO, not CEO.
CISO.
You call me anything but late for dinner. So.
Yeah, and I understand that you also serve in the military in this kind of cybersecurity world. Is that right? Correct, yep. I just started my 25th year, and I joined in 2001, went into the Air National Guard right here in Peoria at the 182nd Airlift Wing. And interesting fact, when I joined, I went to my technical school to learn computers. Yeah.
And we got there on 9/11. So it kind of turned
Fantastic.
my hobby into kind of my duty, and been plugged in since.
Yeah. So you've always been interested in technology, and the military was kind of your segue into your career?
Definitely. Yeah.
Very good. And you're still involved?
Still serving, yeah. I'm the commander of the 182nd Communications Squadron, and I can't let it go. I've been doing it longer than I haven't, so...
Yeah, you don't
One
know
more
how to
year.
not do it.
Yeah, like Brett Favre or whatever.
Yeah, and so this is perfect position for you at Pearl Technology. Obviously, experts in cybersecurity. You guys won an award in 2023 by the Cyber Risk Alliance of being one of the top 250 cybersecurity providers in the world.
Yep.
That's very good.
And we won it again in 2024. So
Oh,
two-peat.
fantastic.
We'll go for a three-peat again.
All right, we're going 3-time champions. Then you get a ring.
Yeah.
And what other things does Pearl Technology offer today?
Yeah, so we have a large audio-visual integration department of our business, and we do a lot of things from conference room to large LED walls. We have 2 data centers. A lot of people are not aware that we have those. One's in Peoria and one's in Bloomington, so we're connecting people to the cloud. You can actually come tour and touch the cloud at our data center, and then we do IT solutions and then cybersecurity, obviously.
Very good. Well, we'll get into the cybersecurity stuff. When we hear the word cybersecurity, I think immediately a lot of people are overwhelmed or assume it's really complicated, and I'm sure that it is. But can you elaborate on what cybersecurity really is?
I mean, I hope they would be overwhelmed, because I'm overwhelmed and I've been doing it for 25 years. But I think simplistic emails coming through and spam is what people think of, or now with ransomware.
Yeah.
But for the most part, what we've seen in the last even 5 years and the shift to work from home is that threat actors are going pretty much after any company, and they want to take your data and then hold you hostage. So now it's turned more into a ransomware scenario, and they want the ransom, right? So there's that trend, and then a second trend is that people are using more technology. I mean, just in this room, we got a lot of technology, right? So it doesn't discriminate if you're a farmer or a banker. Pretty much everyone's entire business depends on technology, so it impacts everybody. That wasn't the case 10 years ago.
Right.
So even a construction company that can't conduct even a site survey without the technology is impacted. So those two things coming together is really where cybersecurity has impacted everybody.
When we talk about even the construction worker, maybe even just running business with his phone and his truck per se, what is the worst case scenario for someone in that type of business as far as a data breach?
So there's 2 avenues that we're experiencing right now. There's one where a threat actor will email you and start a communication, and there's really nothing your spam filter is going to catch, and they will use social engineering tactics to convince you to send or make a payment. And this is where, you could throw all the money at this problem and it doesn't help if people aren't aware. And this happens more often than you're aware. It's called business email compromise. I really don't like that term because it's kind of confusing. It's just fraud.
Right.
So that can hit any business, especially a construction company. And then in maybe that example, they might be using it for site surveys, project management. They might have all their AutoCAD drawings on this, and they can't even progress in their work if it's all taken down. So if a company is fully dependent on technology to run their operations, which they've implemented for efficiencies, now when it's taken offline, they can't conduct their business. They might not even be able to do payroll. So it impacts quite a few people. And then that's when the company has to make a decision. Do they pay the threat actor to get everything going and make their payroll? Or do they try to avoid it?
Yeah, and so it's not necessarily just Social Security numbers or credit card numbers that these threat actors are after. They're after anything that's valuable to you and that might, convince you to just pay up and give it back. Do they ever actually give it back? Or is it constantly blackmail?
So when you make the ransomware payment, the threat actors actually do a decent job of making sure you get the keys, because if they get a bad reputation, people are then less likely to pay. So surprisingly enough,
that's interesting.
Yeah,
the scammers worried about getting a bad reputation.
They have customer satisfaction.
Here's a survey. How did we do?
They joke, but they want to do a good job because they know that increases the likelihood of your payment.
I see.
So, yeah, they actually do a good job. Yeah, make sure you get the keys. Now, if there's some other threat actor in there, you might get attacked a second time by somebody else.
Yeah, that's kind of what we see with scams, is there's usually a network or a ring going on, and it's relentless and it never ends. And the whole customer satisfaction thing is just wild to me. It makes sense, of course, because like with every business, if you're not following through, you lose trust and you'll lose business that way. That's so interesting.
The larger ones actually have employees of the month, and they get paid in crypto, so they get bonuses.
Fantastic! Yeah. Now we're competing with scammer employers. Okay. And we're going to have another show with a local insurance company, or insurance broker, I should say, and we're going to touch on special policy add-ons that you can have for cybersecurity. So when these things happen, there is a way to pay, because it's not just a couple $100 that they're wanting. What's the worst story you've heard about?
They definitely get into the multi-millions, and then through negotiations, and if there is a broker and insurance, a couple $100,000, and they're only going to take crypto. So unmarked bills aren't going to work. Yeah,
that makes sense for them. This is kind of scary stuff. So it's again, not just Social Security numbers and credit cards. They're after anything that would be, valuable to local businesses. And would you say that a lot of data breaches start with employees just being unaware or uneducated, or where do you see the main weakness?
There's a statistic that 80% of the attacks start with an email and somebody clicking on something. There's another aspect of just having your equipment patched, and if you don't have that patched, then they'll get in that way. But we saw that with the recent news of SolarWinds and Log4j. All this stuff made national news, but those are the two avenues, and the emails that are getting through are becoming more sophisticated. And I've never been, we call it FUD in the industry, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, where people kind of freak out. I've never been that person. However, when we do respond to an incident, we find that initial email, we look at it, and every month they get a little cleaner. And we know that's AI, right? I mean,
they're working around it.
Yeah, there's translations tools like Grammarly, right, which helps me on a day-to-day basis. But these threat actors are putting their phishing emails into AI to clean them up, and also they're tapping into, psychological, social engineering tactics. So when we look at the email, there's almost no red flags, which is concerning to me. Because I can kind of pick it out, but I have an eye for it, and I'm not surprised when I find out a person clicked on it, because we all want to help. So they see a need and they think it looks legit. It looks like an HR email. It looks like a tax return. We're in tax season, right?
Yeah.
So people are clicking on them.
Yeah, we see them come in that look like their voicemails, like an audio file. A lot of the payroll ones come through. And so, I mean, is there a way to protect your business? What is the best way to do it?
The best way in that avenue, obviously, is user awareness training. And I'll be honest. I've been in the government for 25 years. I've been forced to do a lot of training and a lot of CVTs that I've clicked through. And that compliance mindset is outdated. So if you're using user awareness training once a year, you're setting yourself up for failure. My recommendation is make that training really unique to your business. Give them training, your employees training that's specific to how you operate. Maybe make your own. But the most important training is to do phishing tests, and most tools have this, where they'll send you a phishing email and kind of test you out. And you want to fail in a scrimmage and not the actual game, right? So we recommend doing phishing tests, start out simple, and then create a culture where people are just used to seeing these. Mm-hmm. And then you can usually crank the level up. So they'll have like 1 to 5. And on some of these tools, they use AI as well. Mm-hmm. And you'll see people are clicking on them.
Okay.
And then you can kind of tailor, your education around, hey, this is why we're failing. And this can take 18 months, but now you've established a culture.
Can you elaborate on what clicking means? Like, is it opening the email or is it an attachment specifically?
So opening up the email can do a little bit of damage, but for the most part, it's clicking on a link or opening up an attachment. But for the most part, it's recognizing that something's wrong and reporting it. Mm-hmm. And, you're going to get a lot of emails that are spam. And there's not much difference between spam and phishing email because they're both a call to action to manipulate you to take action, right? Mm-hmm. So there's not much of a difference. No offense to my marketing friends out there, but it's a very similar tactic. And so just people knowing what to do when they get that email.
Yeah. And kind of being jaded to begin with when you open your email, like what kind of crap is going to be in here today?
100%. I'm the most skeptical human being. I don't know if that got me into security or security made me skeptical, but yeah, I don't believe anything.
You worked at BBB in a former life, and so you're just skeptical of everything. My kid brings home a fundraiser. I'm like, what is this? What is this? We're going to investigate it. And maybe we don't need to be that way all the time, but certainly can prove to be beneficial in keeping yourself safe. What about the business that says, I don't need any of that. I don't use the internet. Is there anyone that doesn't need to be thinking about cybersecurity?
We have these conversations and people feel comfortable where they're at. And, that's a great conversation because there's enough people needing help that I would rather put my time. But I think a lot of them just are surprised. Maybe they've owned the business and they're surprised how much they're using technology now than they were even 10 years ago. Yeah. It comes down to risk, and it is very complicated. It is a lot of math. It's a lot like insurance. So if we can show them, hey, here is your risk. Here's the potential cost of a ransomware attack, which right now, I've asked probably 387 businesses if they know what the potential cost is. And I think 3 have told me a number. Mm-hmm. So for the most part, people
were they right?
They were close.
Okay.
Yeah, they had done the business impact analysis and understand it. But that shows you how many companies just weren't even aware what the potential cost is. Mm-hmm. And they thought they weren't a target, right, until they end up getting hit. So if you know what your potential vulnerability and exposure is from a risk standpoint, then it comes down, it's kind of like insurance where it's like, how much do you invest in protection to buy down that liability? And then what are you comfortable with? What's your risk appetite? And, if you can answer that, you're in a good place. Because I don't have an unlimited budget at Pearl. As much as I would like to throw all the money in the world at it, I have to be smart, too, about it.
And it's constantly evolving. As far as the risk tolerance, what does it take to recover from an attack? So, obviously there's the ransomware that you've talked about already, and that could be an insane amount of money, but what if you say no and they keep your data, or what happens then?
Yeah, and this is a pretty common question. It's not the most ethical thing to pay criminals, right? But I would challenge that person, and I have friends in 3-letter agencies that I've had this debate with, that if I caught you and your spouse in an alleyway and pointed a gun at you and said, hey, give me your wallet, and you're saying, well, I don't pay criminals, and I shoot your spouse, right? Well, so much of a hero you are, right?
Yeah.
So, it's easy for people to Monday morning quarterback these situations until you're in them. And if you're a hospital and someone's pointing that gun at you saying, I'm getting ready to release all of your patient data, and embarrassing data, right? And you think it's not ethical to pay them. Well, is it really ethical for all that data be released because you didn't protect it in the first place?
Well, what if you can't afford it? Maybe the ethics isn't the thing.
So
Maybe you just don't have the money.
that is definitely a component, and that's where insurance will come in, right? Your ability to make that payment, or a negotiation, right? So a lot of times they might ask you for $2 million, and you might talk them down to a number you can pay. That happens as well.
I mean, goodness sakes, do they do payment plans? I mean, what? Where are we
They
at?
want your
here?
money.
Is
They want your money, and they're going to do. They probably already have your credit score,
Yeah.
and they know your accounts
We've
receivable
already
and
applied
accounts
for
payable.
a loan in your name.
Yeah,
and
so
this is going to be taken care of.
They'll be willing to work with you, but it's a very tough decision, and you're going to have legal involved, and you're going to have all your stakeholders, board of directors, even at times, and you're going to have to make that risk decision on what's right. And I think to your initial question, how quickly can you restore? And if you've practiced that, you might be able to restore everything in a day, 2 days, a week. But if it's going to take you 3 months, now that might not be an option, right? So.
Right.
I think that's another aspect. People don't practice enough their resiliency to know, okay, how long does this take? And we've seen companies that have been hacked, their data has been leaked, but they restored and they made that decision to not pay and then, deal with the consequences of the data that was leaked. But they were able to restore. Not everyone's in that position.
Yeah. And I've heard of these like negotiations taking months and months, and you're kind of down. I mean, are you still compromised at that point, or is there a way to, work with someone like Pearl to kind of stop the bleeding per se while we get this other thing figured out?
Definitely call Pearl. Can we make any promises? No, and they typically don't go on a long time because the threat actors will give you a countdown. They're really good with countdowns and applying pressure because they know that excites your fear and your inability to make a clear decision. So they'll give you a 48-hour countdown.
Oh.
And if you don't make that payment, the money goes up, right? So they'll put you in a corner on that one. So you are down, meanwhile, and what is 48 hours feels like 48 minutes. It's hectic, and if you don't practice for it, you'll be surprised by the number of calls from customers that are upset, the news. Better Business Bureau might be calling you. Legal, FBI. I mean, there is a lot. It's total chaos for about 48 to 72 hours. So
how do you practice for it?
The only real practice is to go through it, right? So that's why you need to contact a professional who's been through it and knows what to consider. Unfortunately, businesses in Central Illinois have practice because they've been through them. You can do tabletop exercises and kind of talk through it. You can also do simulations. There's products out there now that will let you kind of walk through a simulation, which is good for that muscle memory. And it's not just a technology nerd thing. There's a lot of business decisions that we've talked about here today, right? I mean, it's not just, we haven't even gone into the geeks and squeaks of what I wanted to talk to, but it's a lot of stakeholders involved. It's not just some security team it's not John the help desk guy. It is a team effort that really everyone needs to practice this cadence of communication. And that's where we come in as experts in incident response to help you kind of quarterback that. And there's no checklist. I've been doing this a long time. I wish there was a checklist, but each one's so unique.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about the geeks and squeaks part of it. What do we not know?
This is kind of an unpopular methodology, but when we roll into a scenario, the first thing we want to know is what happened, right? Like, who clicked on it?
Yeah.
And more often than not, when we get directly to the person, we find out a different scenario. So we have like a 5-hour rule where we will go into a full discovery mode to find out what exactly happened on that computer from a technology geek and squeak standpoint, not just what someone thought happened, right? And that's where it can kind of get dangerous and misleading on misinformation, right? Unfortunately, some people click on an email and then they might not want to say they did it.
Oh.
Right? They don't want to be in trouble. Like, I just lost the company $3 million.
That was me.
It wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't even use email.
So, or they just don't know what they did. right? So they obviously, maybe if they fell for it, they might not even known what they've done. And then that gets reported, and just like the telephone game, it might get to the person that actually calls us, and we're told one thing.
Okay.
And we get in there, and it's a different scenario. And that's where we go look at the geeks and squeaks of the computer and find out from a forensic standpoint, all right, what malware is running.
Okay.
And what else is going on in this network?
Yeah.
Oh, really? It's not just this one computer. The whole thing's compromised. And the whole thing is about to burn down in 3 hours. And here's the ransomware note that was on a machine that no one else saw. So that's why we have the 5-hour rule, is that we go into a full discovery to find out what all we can learn about the situation and really roll from there. So, yeah, I think there is a lot of technology to this scenario.
What would be your, I guess, top advice for a business that knows this is a problem? They don't know where to begin. They don't know how much protection they need. How do you kind of calm that fear and uncertainty and doubt that you were mentioning?
The first thing is to have some type of an audit, right?
Okay.
I mean, we would do that in accounting with your books or anything like that, right? But I even do it with Pearl Technology, right? I've been doing this a long time, but I need a separate set of eyes to look at this. And so we have assessments, and they're in different forms. But the first thing is to have somebody come in, kind of dig in.
Yeah.
And take a good assessment of what's happening. We've noticed some companies out there giving these assessments away for free, and I'm not a big fan of that because there's a level of due diligence that goes into an assessment, and a lot of hours and a lot of expertise and time, and it is very costly even for our business to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If I was doing it for free, I'd be setting you up to say I'm trying to sell you services. And I sell services, but I don't think that's the right way about it. So be a little skeptical of people who are giving away assessments.
I would assume it's not as thorough as well.
No, I mean, it's a lead generator. Let's just call it what it is, right? So we don't do the free assessments. We give you an honest look, and if we can give you recommendations that you can implement, great, or buy from someone else, even better. But we want to give you that accurate snapshot. So having someone come in and do a quick audit of what you have going on to understand your current state and then give you some recommendations on your future state is the best thing you can do.
What does zero trust endpoint security mean?
It's a great question. I've been trying to figure that out the last couple months. But no, essentially, definitely with work from home, you have people taking their laptops to their house, right? And you don't know what's going on in there. You don't know, what kind of wireless they have or if anything's patched there. And people working from hotels, and a lot of corporate data has been spread out, especially since the pandemic and mobile and laptops. So zero trust is really just a methodology to lock that computer down as much as possible, knowing that it's not in a protected environment. If we go back 10, 15 years ago where everyone's computer was inside the corporate building, huge security stack, you had a little more flexibility on that machine. But now with zero trust, you pretty much are ensuring that the only person accessing your corporate data is coming from that laptop or from that person, and that machine's pretty much not trusting anything. So
what does that look like? I assume like two-factor type stuff, or is there more to it?
Two-factor. There's some zero trust apps. So you might put a application on your laptop.
Okay.
And what that application will do is before you check your email, for example, it'll scan and make sure, hey, is this machine fully patched? We just talked about how not having patched machines is a way in. It'll check, is this fully patched? Has this person authenticated? And are they MFA'd? And with all those things checked out, it'll say this laptop can access your email.
Okay.
So if somebody stole your username and password and heaven forbid even took your MFA, but they're in a different laptop, they wouldn't be able to access it. So you've really locked it down to that one computer.
What about our phones?
I don't know how much time we have here. But
Whole nother ball game.
Yeah, if it's a personal phone, there's some technologies out there that from a zero trust standpoint will actually put zero data on that phone. And that is a best practice. So not to get into the nerdery of it, but you're essentially just looking at pixels of your email. You're not actually having your email on your phone. And that is a new kind of zero trust technology and capability. But this brings in bring your own device, BYOD, and some management that you're going to have to consider on how much corporate data are you allowing on people's personal phones, or if you're giving them their own phone. But it's a whole nother can of worms.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
From the back of the house. Susanna actually up front was asking, she knew you were coming in, if you open up an email that is like a spamware email on your phone, will it attack your phone like it does for your computer?
So if the intention of the spam email is to give you malware on the specific device, then yes, it would infect your phone. A lot of these malwares have a specific target or operating system. They might be going after a Windows vulnerability, right? So if you're rocking an iPhone or an Android, that that payload might not work on your phone. If they're trying to steal your username and password, then that malicious link could then still work from your phone, and it's going to take you to a spoofed page for your QuickBooks login, and then you're going to put in your username and password, and they're going to steal it. So you're still vulnerable when you're on your home phone.
So you said to start with an audit. And so once you've had that audit complete and you know kind of where your vulnerabilities are, I assume the next step is that kind of risk tolerance conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you're looking at the risk, you're aligning it with your business needs, right? So you're trying to protect what we call your crown jewels, the stuff that, no kidding, if this happens, impacts our customers or it impacts our operations. We need to really protect our accounts payable or accounts payroll or employees, PIA data. So it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Sure.
And that's where you will look at what's the impact to your business and what's the risk. And then you're trying to invest in areas that protect and offset those specific risks. So everyone's different. There's no one-size-fits-all.
Yeah, good. So just asking a bunch of questions, figuring out vulnerabilities, risk tolerance, and which applications would be best suited. Very good. Anything else we should know about cybersecurity for business?
I think it takes a lot longer than people realize. It's not a quick fix. It's stacking brick by brick and then monitoring how things are working.
Sure.
So we recommend that you have some type of cadence where you're looking at this stuff once a month to analyze if things are working or not. But it's a lot of different stakeholders too, so it's not something you just want your technology department looking at. There should be some type of report that's getting up to your leadership or board of directors that shows them this is the risk and this is the risk that's being accepted, because they're the one making the decision, right? And it's not to pass the buck, but in a way it is, because if you're not informing people of what could happen, then you're doing yourself a disservice. So taking something incredibly complex and making it simple that everyone can understand, here's what we're looking at. And if people are telling you everything is green, then something's wrong there. Maybe they don't know what they're looking at, because there's going to be risk.
Right.
And there's unless you have an unlimited budget, then you could green everything up. But even coming out of the DoD where we have large budgets, we still faced a lot of risk.
Sure. If somebody's interested in getting in this field, how do we do it?
Take your computer apart, master your computer. No, right now is probably the greatest opportunity that I've ever seen, is a program that you're probably familiar with called the IT Accelerator. They have it at ICC, Eureka, and Bradley, and they're offering courses for free. And if they're offering these courses when I was going to school back in 2001, I probably would have slept there, honestly. Like, the curriculum is amazing. It's the best in class, and it's free. No cost is what Don Schaefer likes to call it, but essentially your tax-paying money is going towards this program. So getting involved in that education, getting some credentials, and then getting your foot in the door with some type of experience in technology. I think a lot of people want to enter this field and jump into security, but they're better off learning how everything's working before they can secure it. So get a job just in technology. Pearl Technology offers an event here coming up in May, where when everyone's graduating, we host an event to let everyone know how to get your foot in the door. We talk about all this stuff, LinkedIn, certifications, experiences, and everything you need to know, kind of get started.
Nice. That's fantastic. Well, if you have any questions about cybersecurity or how to maybe enter the field of technology, please reach out to Pearl Technology right here in Central Illinois. They'll answer all of your questions. A BBB accredited business for many years now, and in our community for over 40 years. So well established, ready to help with all of your needs. The All Good Things with BBB podcast was designed to help you be a better business. So we hope this information has helped you and you've got some takeaways to help improve your security for your business. Thanks for watching.